Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. I'm Afefe with Touch by Tarot, here to check in with you on the upcoming Mercury retrograde. It starts on August 23rd and it goes through September 14th. For those of you who are new to my channel, please like and subscribe. I am an intuitive tarot reader. I'm a certified tarot reader as well, and I use a lot of oracles. I do pick a cards. I always check in with you all for the new moon and full moon. I do incorporate quite a bit of astrology into my tarot and oracle readings. And so today, let's talk about mastering Mercury in retrograde. How many times, you all, do we talk about, something goes wrong and we go, wait a minute, is Mercury in retrograde? Because there is that time where, when Mercury goes into retrograde, we get faced with very often, challenges in travel, those flight delays, which nowadays is like common. But flight delays, your internet can get a little wonky, your cell phones, certainly your laptops, back up your hard drives, all of those things. Anything relating to communication can get a little wonky during Mercury in retrograde. But also, I think what's happened is, we begin to build the hype of all the things that can go wrong with Mercury retrograde, or while Mercury is in retrograde. I think Spirit is saying, you know what? Why can't we turn that around a little bit? Why can't we get that time to work for us by being conscious of things like taking care with our communication, checking our devices, backing up our devices, restarting our phones, checking our software, being more proactive about it? Because what happens is, there's that saying, what you focus on grows. And so, if I pulled some cards out to illustrate, if every time we think about Mercury retrograde, we go to our friends, the swords in tarot, and we think about all those things, in that Eight of Swords, there's usually that sense of fear. Really, it's being overwhelmed by fear. And very often, that fear is because of something that has just gotten really blown out of proportion in our minds. It's a situation where, maybe you've had words with someone, because we're talking about communication. So maybe you've had some tense words with somebody, and instead of assuming or figuring a way to, smooth that over, go back and make sure that they understood your point of view, or if you're not quite, what did you mean by that? Have a conversation to get to a point of clarity. No, what do? We go and we sit by ourselves and, turn it over in our heads over and over again, and really get it blown up to the point where that eight of swords graduates to a nine, and now we're completely tied up. We don't have any leverage. We feel like, the situation, we feel overwhelmed. Anxiety completely takes over. So this is something that typically, thinking too, that Mercury in retrograde, Mercury is air, and it is about how we communicate, but most importantly, you all, it's about the things we tell ourselves about what is happening in our lives. And that's the point of today's reading. I want us to, we can master Mercury retrograde by taking charge of the dialogue that we have with ourselves as well as others, keeping in mind that, yes, take those practical steps by all means to take care of your electronic devices. If you're in a company environment and you get ready, if you don't mean to hit reply all, right, don't do that. Pay attention to who is and is not on those communications. All those things are practical measures. But I am talking about sort of this mythology that surrounds Mercury in retrograde, where we begin to almost brace ourselves and prepare ourselves to expect the worst. And it puts us in that state of mind. We're going to park these over to the side for a minute, and let's look at some other things that Mercury in retrograde brings us. Keeping in mind that, again, in tarot and oracle, I'm going to use one of both here. In tarot, Mercury retrograde is represented by the lovers ruled by Gemini. It has to do with how to create a union. And I love that in this depiction, we've got this angelic, think about your spirit guides, right? Your higher self. We've got this enlightened presence that sits with two people different, different backgrounds, different ideas, different ways of communicating perhaps, but there's a possible union there. There's a desired union there. And so that is something too that Mercury retrograde brings us, is an opportunity to examine, if you could step out of those two spots and go right there into that more objective and enlightened, position. How is it that you are communicating with people that you care about? How is it that you're taking care of your partnerships, that what is your take even on a partnership? Do you automatically think that if you are if you are in agreement with someone, that somehow your position has to meld into theirs? Really think about how you can begin to master your position while also taking into consideration the other person with whom you are uniting, whether it's business, romance, family, etc. There is two, the idea is that two can become one. Two can become one in terms of enlightenment. The other thing is, and it goes with that card we just saw in tarot. In this deck, Gemini is called cross pollination. So when we think about that, it's so cool, because what are you doing if not cross pollinating when you interact with someone, when you communicate with someone, your ideas? I'm doing it right now with you. There's this idea that you take information, you take feelings, you take experiences from one person and you share them with another, and in turn they do the same with you. What's happening between those two is then the flower grows, the relationship grows, the perspective grows, our learning and our ability to evolve as humans grow in direct proportion to the extent to which we're willing to cross pollinate. So think about that. Does Mercury retrograde bring you an opportunity to be more? To be more mindful, to be more aware, to stretch your ideas, your perspective, right? Instead of fearing it, maybe there's an opportunity to embrace it, recognizing that yes, you will change. Your ideas and your focus may change as a result of this cross pollination, as a result of this union that you build and you form in your partnerships, right? But that's the whole point. That's the whole point of life. Is we're here taking this journey to grow our souls, to evolve, to live our purpose, to discover our purpose, and to enjoy more. We are one. But if we take the one, if we're always focused on self, and forget the we part, then where's the connection? Okay, thinking about this as well. Mercury brings messages. Mercury is very involved in, again, communication. But what are those messages meant to convey? Is there a way in mastering Mercury? Is there a way that you can use this time between August 23rd and September 14th to be very deliberate in how you craft your messages, how you write those emails, how you make those phone calls, what kinds of discussions you intend to have with others? If you are negotiating in any, in a business context, what message it is that you want to convey. If you are in business for yourself, what is the message that you are conveying to your clientele? Is there a way, when something goes into retrograde, it very often gives us the opportunity to revamp it, revisit it, polish it up a little bit. So is there something in your messaging that can stand to be polished up? Because keeping in mind as well, Mercury rules the third house, and the third house is all about communication. So our messaging, our communication, our ability to cross-pollinate, rather than feeling like what is happening during Mercury retrograde is somehow something coming toward us that is out of our control. All of these cards reflect something that puts the power sort of back with us. And that takes me to, in tarot, the Magician, ruled by Mercury. All right? And what the Magician does is takes every resource available to it. It's an archetype where if we have a skill, if we have an ability change something, if we know, we're that go-to person, we're the person that people come to for advice, or we are able to, analyze things. We can be very logical, thinking about the air element with Mercury. That's what the magician does. The magician comes with air, earth, fire, water. You will always see there's your wands, your cups, your earth. Where's my fire? There's got to be the candle. There's the fire. Okay, got it. So I was going to make sure all those four elements are there. But the point with that is, with a magician energy, think about using Mercury in retrograde to assess what you have at your disposal to impact the changes that you need in your life right now, to strengthen the relationships that you have in your life right now, to go back and revisit the messaging that you've already put out there. If you have a website, maybe it's time to tool it up a little bit or retool it. If you've always been doing something the same way for a very long time and you feel like, okay, well, that person knows me, maybe it's time to have a conversation where you address what you really feel about that person, and you sort of reestablish and boost up, make it juicy. That's what the magician does in tarot. The magician takes things and creates them. Great card when you're doing manifestation work, even though when a planet like Mercury is in retrograde, it might not be the best time to actually, put your manifestation rituals in motion, but certainly a great time to assess what it is that you want to manifest. Assess if you've been trying to get something to go your way for a while and you've been hitting some blocks, you've been sitting around feeling like that. It's a great time to think, okay, what else is at my disposal? What other tools do I have? Who do I know? What kind of networks do I have? Do I need to make a phone call, send an email, messaging, right? What can you do to begin to filter through and change things and change that energy? Mercury retrograde is a beautiful time to think about that and to put that in motion. You don't have to have anything written in stone. Mercury is a very flexible planet. It is ruled by Gemini. It is also, you all, I want to make sure I remember to mention this to you. I put this card out. It is happening the 23rd, Mercury goes into retrograde as we go into Virgo season. So there is a groundedness to it. And Virgo rules the card, the master arcana, the major arcana, the Hermit in tarot. The Hermit is very, I think sometimes it's a misunderstood card because we think that it means we've got to go into isolation. We're off, by ourselves. Maybe we don't feel like we have adequate support. Maybe we just feel like it's time to close ourselves off and figure things out. But in the context of Mercury in retrograde, I think the Hermit and it coming in the sign of Virgo is going to be about us figuring out what our options are and what it is that we are moving toward. The Hermit is always on a quest for greater knowledge, greater understanding, greater personal development. And so when we tie that into Mercury, the messaging, what are you telling yourself? In Virgo, last card, digest, right? When we have thoughts, when we have conversations, we digest the information. And in digesting it, it's then, it's almost like, think about when you eat your food. You digest your food so that you can extract from it the nutrients, right? What are the benefits of it? And then, of course, your body gets rid of what it doesn't need. What is our method for digesting what comes toward us when Mercury is in retrograde, especially when it happens in a very practical, very health conscious, very, very quest conscious sign like Virgo. Virgo can lean a little bit into being hypercritical. And that is something that can come across in our communications. Sometimes without even intending it, we can come across a little like, well, this could have been done that way, or even how much do we beat ourselves up? I should have said that, or I shouldn't have said that, or maybe why did I do that, right? We go through that. But the Hermit is saying there's something greater. There's keep moving toward something greater. Keep cross-pollinating. Keep building by using your relationships, by using your tools. Call those things into existence. ask Mercury retrograde, ask your guides specifically during Mercury retrograde, what is my messaging? And are there ways that my messaging can be tweaked, both my internal dialogue and what I am saying to others, how I'm showing up in the world? If someone were to describe me, sometimes that's on these little quizzes, these personality quizzes. If someone else were to describe you, what would be the three, perhaps the three top things or traits or attributes that they would use? Think about that. What is your messaging? And that puts you in a place of, instead of feeling, trapped, it puts you in a place of empowerment. It gives you a sense of approaching Mercury retrograde as an opportunity to revisit what your communication style is, what your messaging is, what your relationships are, and how you want to build those relationships and make them more harmonious. It's an opportunity to do so, all right? I hope that resonated with you all. Let me know. Always, I appreciate your thoughts. I'm going to pull a couple of oracles for you, asking the guides to give you specific messages and keywords that you can use during this Mercury in retrograde period. I'm going to be using the Awakened Soul Oracle. All right? Okay, so I'm being led to pull three because Mercury in Gemini specifically is the third house. So led to pull three cards and use if it pings you, use it. Spirit, what are three aspects of the awakened soul? Three attributes, three things that people who see this video can utilize and make use of in order to be more empowered by Mercury retrograde, to master the fears, to erase and eradicate fears and sort of that expectation of the worst. How do we make the best of it? All right? Why not? We have a choice. All right. So the first card that I get, I'm going to use the card at the bottom when I shuffle that way, is simplicity. I like that. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Look, there's that music, which is an air element. It is that sound. Excuse me for that ring light reflection. There we go. There is that sound. There is that calming quality. There is that sense of getting still. And also, there is the sense of the music itself. What is it that you can, talk about messaging? Are there messages in songs that will help you during this time? Listen to the lyrics of songs and absorb that, right? That's your cross-pollination, right? Take that music, take that song, take what you are hearing and listening to, and use that as a way to empower your messaging and your thought processes during this time. All right. Second card is a labyrinth. Wow. So another keyword or another key action that you can take while Mercury is in retrograde is when you go through the labyrinth, the idea is that, number one, you are not in a hurry, and it is a journey. It kind of goes with that hermit, because it is a solitary journey that you take, but you take the journey because you are winding your way to the center. You are winding your way. All the events in your life, your relationships, different things that may be happening with you, you're winding, easy for me to say, your way to a realization, to the recognition, to an aha moment. And that is very much reflected in the hermit. Going back to that hermit card, if I could find it. There it is. Because remembering too that the hermit is on that quest. The labyrinth is a quest, but it is also a quest that feels it feels more doable because you see the end. You see the end in sight. It doesn't feel like you're just out there on a journey and you don't know where you're going. With the labyrinth, you see exactly where it is that you're going to. You know there is a center, but you have to take your time to get there. You have to walk that path to get there. And the idea, again, is that by doing so, by taking your time, by being patient, by being thoughtful, messaging, that by the time you reach that center, you will have an answer too, or some clarity, or some guidance and and direction around where you are going. Mercury retrograde can be very beneficial in that regard, in terms of something we thought we had in the bag, or we just knew what we were doing. There is that reconsideration, that clarity, that in after, hindsight 2020, right? We go, ah, that's why it didn't happen, or that's why I shouldn't have gone this way. You get that realization by taking that walk, taking that path. And your third card is desire. This is a beautiful time. This makes me think of that Lovers card, which is, again, in tarot, the Lovers is related to Gemini. Okay? So, related to Mercury. Desire. This is a wonderful time in talking about your messaging. Are you communicating your desires first and foremost to yourself? Because very often, when we go through that path of living our purpose, manifestation, this goes back, ties directly to manifestation, what we desire. We think about it in terms of, here's what I want. But we also have to think about what we are willing to do, going back to that Magician card. What are we willing to do, and what do we have at our disposal to bring those desires toward us? So this is a beautiful time to take, instead of feeling like it's got to happen right now, mastering Mercury retrograde is a beautiful time to assess your desires, to revamp them, and to really think about, ultimately, what is the meaning of it? What is the value of it? How is it going to impact your life long term? We could desire, something really elaborate, something really luxurious, or we could desire something really simple. And the idea is, if we were to have that thing and bringing that thing into our existence, what is the long term benefit? That's the messaging. That's the mastering Mercury in retrograde. It gives you a beautiful opportunity to really assess the value of what it is that you are bringing into your life. And also, I forgot to show you this card. I just looked down and saw it. Remembering too that Virgo is the 6th house. This Mercury retrograde is happening during Virgo season. And the key word here is sustainability. So when we think about that in the context of your desire, are your desires sustainable? Is it wishing what you want just because it's going to make you feel good in the short term? Or is it going to build your soul? Is it going to build your relationships? Is it going to build your partnerships? Is it going to help your business succeed? Is it going to help you have a greater understanding of who you are and what you bring to this world? You know what I mean? All of those things, that's sustainability. And maybe Mercury retrograde being a beautiful time to assess your desires and perhaps cross-pollinate them, going back to that at the start of the reading. Cross-pollinate your desires so that ultimately what you are going for gives you a fuller experience than perhaps even you expected. All right? I hope that helps you get through this Mercury retrograde and those yet to come. I hope it's given you a different perspective, maybe made you feel a little more empowered about it. If you're interested in learning more about me, you can always visit my website. It's truly www.trulytouchedbytarot.com. You can also book a reading with me directly online through my website. If you have any other comments, please feel free to leave them in down below. I always respond. I love hearing from you. Enjoy this Mercury retrograde. If the flights are delayed, the other stuff happens, we know that's par for the course. We know that we had, we forewarned is forearmed, right? So we can handle that. But let's look at Mercury retrograde in a larger context and look at it as a way, an opportunity to build ourselves and build our goals and build our messaging. Are we on message? Are we cross-pollinating our lives in the ways that will be sustainable? Okay? Take care. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.